We've all had it happen, but we don't always recognize it until we have a meltdown or we feel so out of sorts we can't stand it 1 second more. I'm talking about what happens when our routines are messed up and changed by something that's happening in our life. I've recently been dealing with this issue, and it crept up on me over a 4-week period. My regular routine was completely off the rails. Not like drastically, but it was just subtle enough that I felt horrible. And all of a sudden, I woke up and I'm like, this is bad. This is not good. Something is really wrong. I know I haven't been doing some of the things I normally do because I wasn't able to, and I had to do it for health reasons. But man, it really, really messed up everything else. I started to feel horrible, and horrible all day long, not just when I normally do that activity. My routine was interrupted, and I had to figure out how to get it back, how to reestablish it. Has this ever happened to you? Today, I'm going to share 4 tips that I've learned that help me get back on track and reestablish my routine, and how to put checks in place so that I can catch it earlier next time and not reach a point of misery after weeks of quiet discord. If you're new, I'm Carol Jean and I'm autistic. Each week, I put a video together, and I also have a blog and a podcast that you can check out called Mind Your Autistic Brain, where I interview other autistics who are late identified, and we hear more about their journey. Today, we're learning about discord and our routines and how to reestablish them, and also how to put checkpoints in so that it doesn't happen again. We've talked about how our brain defaults to routines and habits subconsciously. And we've talked about how some of those subconscious behaviors and routines can either help us or hurt us. Today, we're talking about and evaluating our routines. And our routines become automated, and it becomes part of our habitual behavior. But it is really great when it doesn't go well and our routine does get off, because it presents us with an opportunity to evaluate our routine, to see what really has been working, maybe what's evolved over time and may not be serving us well anymore. I want to share 4 tips that I've learned that help me create and reestablish routines that are helpful and that serve me well, and how to put checkpoints in place so it doesn't get too far out of my routine, so I don't end up having a meltdown or just feeling so horrible that I don't feel like I can get myself back together. So let's talk about first why routines are so important to us as autistics. It's kind of like a duh thing, right? It's like, duh, it makes everything so much easier for me, right? Well, there's 3 main reasons. One is routines give us a sense of stability. Stability in my world is really important. Maybe it is to you too. Second, routines cut down on decision fatigue. This is a real thing. If I have to make too many decisions within the day or early in the day, it really exhausts me. It taxes my executive function skills, and it makes doing anything else later in the day so much harder. So if you have executive function challenges, routines are really important in the sense that they cut down on decision fatigue. Number 3, routines save time and it makes the brain happy. Remember, we talked about the 2 main things that the brain does. It seeks, number 1, to protect us and keep us safe. And number 2, it seeks energy efficiency. Routine is one of those really wonderful things where we do have habits, we do have automated things that we do, and it frees up energy in the brain. When we free up the energy in the brain and we have good, healthy routines that help us and aid us, like decreasing our decision fatigue, it also helps give us more energy to do other things later in the day. And that's one of the things that really helps with my executive function challenges. When I have a good morning routine, and morning routine is what's really vital for me, and I'm working on a night routine. That's sort of a process. But I want you to be really aware of how you're expending your energy, because routines do help conserve energy. So be mindful of that. But if we're talking about all the good things that routines do, we also have to talk about the pitfalls, some of the things to be aware of. Number 1 is you need to be intentional about which routines you create so that they're serving you to create a better quality life all around. If you come home from work and you do need that quiet time, but you're not being mindful of how much time you sit on the couch just like vegging out watching Netflix, then it can become something that's not helping you, because there's a time frame you really need to recuperate and have quiet. But then there comes a point where, okay, it's no longer serving you. And if you're just watching Netflix episode after Netflix episode mindlessly, you can start taking on some of the emotions of the show you're watching. And so then that routine has become something that's not really helping you. So be mindful of things like that. The second thing is be observant of the routines you currently have in place and evaluate if they're helping you or if they're hurting you. So really take time to be aware of it. So when your routine has gotten out of whack like mine has, it really allowed me the opportunity to evaluate what I knew was helping and what was working, and where I thought I might be able to tweak it a little bit and either add things, remove things, or adjust something that is working but might need a few little tweaks to it. Number 3, be aware and be sure to incorporate activities into your routine that allow areas of growth. For instance, in the mornings, I like to spend at least 30 minutes a day reading. Anything. It can be an article. It could be, I might even listen to a podcast, but I set aside 30 minutes each morning that I read. And I also journal and meditate. Those are things that are really important to me, and they make a difference. And I found that when I got out of my routine of exercising first thing in the morning, this is sort of how this whole routine debacle started. I have an infection on my shoulder blade from a cyst. And I noticed that when I was exercising, I got sweaty. It really made it hurt worse. And I've been on antibiotics to help it. So I had to stop exercising until this is totally healed. Well, it sort of had a chain reaction of things. I wasn't getting up to go exercise, so I wasn't reading. I wasn't journaling. I wasn't spending time doing my Bible study every morning. And slowly over the last couple of weeks, because this has been going on for about 3 weeks, I started to notice I was getting agitated. I couldn't think as clearly. I was exhausted, which was really just, I think, not just infection, but a buildup of my routine and my habits, and things that helped and served me well weren't working because I wasn't doing them. It's like when one thing got out of whack, it was like this domino effect. So I thought, okay, I got to reestablish my routine, but this is a good opportunity to kind of figure out what works and what doesn't work. So maybe this is a good time for you to take a break, take a pause, and step back and reevaluate where you are right now in your routine and see what's working and what's not working. So let's start with step 1. Decide which portion of the day you wish to focus on first, and let's begin there. For me, it's morning. Morning is the biggest thing for me. It sets the tone for my whole day. It affects my energy. It affects my clarity. It does everything. So morning routine for me is really important. For you, it might be your afternoon routine. That might be your biggest challenge or struggle in the day. It could be your night routine. You know, all of us autistics, we really struggle with the sleep thing. So sometimes maybe a good night routine will really help you best. I'm most affected by how my day starts, so that's where I'm going to talk about today as far as the morning routine, but these can also be established and used for a night routine or any other time of day. But I'm going to be talking about the morning. Okay, so I'm also going to provide you with a morning planning guide. So you can click in the description box below and get a link to that. And that'll help you kind of lay it out, because I have some framework for you to follow. So step 2, after you, step 1, decide which part of the day you want to establish and focus on to start your routine first. Step 2 is to evaluate what you've been doing so far in the morning. So ask if it's been helping you. Are you getting things done with less stress and decision making involved? Or is it making your life easier by doing it, in the morning? Basically, establish your why for choosing to do something each morning. We have those have to things and need to things. And we'll talk about those too. So once you establish the type of day, type of routine and what time of day you want to focus on, then evaluate what you've been doing so far and determine what's working. Make a list of that. Make a list of things that kind of work some days or don't work other days. It's kind of hit or miss. Those things you might be able to adjust. And then really think about, well, does this help me? Or is this something I can eliminate? And maybe there's something that can go in its place. So you kind of have 3 columns there. Start with that. Step 3, create a list of tasks that you need or have to do each morning. We all have these things. It's like we know we have to brush our teeth every morning. We know we have to fix our hair. We know we have to get dressed for the day. So make your list of things that you have to do every morning. It's part of how you have to leave your house. You can't go in your pajamas with your hair all over the place and stinky breath. Well, you could, but I don't think anybody wants that, right? Then create a list of things that are essential to how your morning sets the tone and productive stage for the rest of your day. You may need to set 30 minutes each morning to read or to journal, like I do. I strongly suggest starting a 20-minute workout first thing in the morning because the science behind it is really great. And it shows that the stress hormone cortisol is highest in the morning when you first wake up. If you spend just a minimum of 20 minutes doing some vigorous exercise, get your heart rate up, get where you're a little sweaty, what that does is it decreases the stress hormone cortisol. It increases the endorphins like dopamine. So you feel better, you're more energized, you have less stress to start your morning. But one of the added benefits of that is you get serious mental clarity. It makes such a difference for me. If you haven't tried it, I suggest giving it a try and adding it to your routine. So step 4, structure your routine and map it out based on the list of things you need to do and things that you want to incorporate to create a better morning and a better day. Arrange the items into an order that work best for you. Estimate about how much time each activity requires or needs, and use that as a guide in planning what time you need to wake up each morning in order to accomplish your routine without feeling rushed. That's really important. Time management and time really stresses me out, especially when I feel like I'm being rushed, I don't have time for something, or I feel like I'm cutting something short. So it's really important to me that I allow myself enough time in the morning to go through my regular routine without being rushed and without feeling like I'm having to hurry and beat the clock, because that sort of messes up the whole thing for me. Adding in checkpoints at this point. So make some notes of how you feel and how your morning or day goes when your routine is working well for you. Think about how productive you are, how you feel, how you perform, your executive function skills. Where are they in the day when your routine in the morning is working really well for you? It can be that you have more energy in the afternoon around 2 p.m. because you didn't have to make a bunch of decisions early in your day. It could be that you clear your email box in like 10 minutes twice a day versus getting stuck checking email for like 2 hours in the afternoon down this crazy rabbit hole. Does your morning routine affect your day that way? Make notes about how you feel and how your day goes when your routine has been disrupted in some way. This is a really good opportunity to be aware of when this doesn't happen in the morning, this is what happens later in the day. Build in a time each week for reflection to be mindful of your routine specifically and how it's going, if something needs to be adjusted, added, or removed. This only takes a few minutes and it will save you loads of time and upset in the long run. I do reflection pretty regularly, but I wasn't being aware of and intentionally thinking about my routine in the sense of how it affects me. Like, I knew I wasn't exercising and I knew that I was doing it for a specific reason, but I wasn't being fully aware of and thinking about it in the sense of how is it affecting everything else that I do in my routine? And then how did that domino effect end up in me feeling absolutely horrible and going, okay, this is crazy. I got to fix this. Something is seriously wrong. And it's my routine's a hot mess. And I'm totally out of my routine and this is not working. So when I said, okay, I got to put this checkpoint in place, how can I keep this from happening again in the future? Or how can I better catch something so it doesn't domino next time? This is what I have found is really a good way to do it. If I intentionally say, okay, on Fridays, when I do my reflection for the week, this is what I'm adding to my question list for myself. What is happening with my routine this week? What did I notice about my routine? So that way I'm not going to get 3 or 4 weeks into it and this gradual change of routine ends up snowballing, but I can catch it early on. Maybe you can do it this way too. So the final step, try it out. Simply try it out. A routine is best established by taking your time to see what is working and what you can adjust, add, or eliminate, so that you refine your routine until it is consistently serving you well. Remember that life is always changing, and there are some things that are beyond our control, right? There's things that happen in our world we have no control over, but you have control over the decisions that you make about your routine and how you respond in adapting that to serve you best. When a routine is in place, then you have the knowledge that you can adjust it, add it, or eliminate aspects of the routine as things change and as you need to, so that it allows you control and freedom to grow and adapt in a way that makes you comfortable and that helps you. Routines are fantastic and they can be really great, but they also have some drawbacks. So remember, be intentional about your routine. Be aware of how your routine is affecting your day and your skills and how you perform. And also be sure to make a checkpoint in your week to evaluate how you're doing. I hope these tips have helped you today. And I hope that this has really served you so that if you're like me and you've been at this point where your routine is completely messed up and you need to reestablish a routine, take the opportunity to figure out what was really working and maybe what you could change. See you next week.